Hello, everybody. How are you all? How exciting it is to be with you. And today I am starting a brand new series of expert interview. And so I've interviewed mystery shoppers, I've interviewed leaders, I've interviewed feng shui experts, and to continue in the kind of, the series of, we need to look after our environment, we need to look after ourselves, we need to look after our business. Well, the next part of, what I've been talking about the last, few weeks of Shui, it's all about the personal wellness, personal state of that being. And so this whole quarter is going to be a series of well-being expert, wellness expert. And my first expert on the show is Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hello. I'm just so honored to be here and so grateful. Thanks for having me here today. I'm so elated. So many good things to talk about. Exciting.
I know, right? And so we met just probably about 10 months ago or something like that. And we were doing a networking event, and those kind of things, you connect with somebody and just say, right, we need to speak more. And at the time you were launching your beautiful book as well. So I want to hear all about it. Everybody wants to hear more about it. So first of all, Jennifer, just tell us, what do you do? How did you get into wellness and well-being?
Oh, that's a great story. Yeah, I think, I think a lot of us can relate to that, that life journey and sort of how it gets to you where you are in this moment in time. And for me, so I'll start. I'm an educator, a wellness and mindfulness specialist. And as you mentioned, I'm also a #1 international best-selling children's book, the one behind me, uh, all about using your breath, your powerful healing breath, to have less stress and anxiety. So it's been a real privilege to be able to get that book, that message out into the world, to support children, to support educators, families, mentors, anyone who wants to support children, essentially, so that they can have their most resilient and happy life. And it's just such a gift to be able to share a message of hope and share a message where children can find tools that are so easily implemented into their day to make them shine, to make them feel at their best, so that they can present to the world their best light and just achieve greatness, right? Just achieve greatness.
Yeah, I think this is just beautiful because, we talk about a lot about mindfulness, about resilience, about all those things for adults in the workplace, for employees, for people. But actually, if we were to teach our children to do that when they're children, we would have such a more beautiful life without struggling all them years before you actually discover the mindfulness, discover the resilience.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a good point. And the reality is, especially in Western society, we live in that busy all the time, and we literally condition ourselves to not be mindful, like the opposite of that. And as a result, on a global scale, we're seeing all kinds of health issues that are transpiring as a result of living in the busy. And as you said, if we can bring this to children, if children can learn these tools at such a young age, it becomes habitual. It becomes an integrated part of their life and just who they are. And as you said, as a result of that, they just live easier, better, more meaningful lives as a result of that. So it's powerful, very powerful. Yeah.
Because you've obviously you published a book now that was in September. Was it no, October, wasn't it?
October, November. Yeah.
October, November. What did you do before to get the book?
Yeah.
Because you've got a few jobs going on, haven't you?
True.
You've got a few lives.
Let's feel that way.
They're starting to link with each other, don't they, really?
They do. They interrelate so nicely. So, I mean, if I were to if you want my story, I can certainly share it. And maybe that'll sort of kind of give you that bigger picture. So when I talk about mindfulness and wellness specialist and being an educator, there is a big story there. As a child, I was very fortunate. We grew up. I'm going to use the word. We grew up in the country, and I was exposed to a lot of natural beauty and lots of natural elements. And my parents were strong believers in, integrating life in nature and being very holistic that way. But then there was a time where I was about 8 years old. Yeah, about eight. And I came home from school as we normally would, following the routines, and took my bag, put it on the table. My mother was cooking dinner. Everything was normal. And, being the big sister that I was, I bugged my younger brother a little bit and harassed him a little and teased him. That was me, and in the most loving way, and of course. And then my father came home, normal time, but there was something different in that moment, and everyone felt it. There was a different energy. My father's body language, his facial expressions, something was different in the routine. And what I observed as an 8-year-old child was a father with a blank stare, a lot of unexplained energy and emotion, fall into my mother's arms and collapse and start to sob.
Oh, wow.
That was really traumatic. As an 8-year-old child, seeing your father as this person who could, your hero, and realizing that this is happening in a moment, out of your routine. That was a pivotal moment for me. And I mean, there's lots of pivotal moments, but that was one of the ones that really resonated early on for me. And having seen that and experiencing sensations in the body and feelings in that moment, I couldn't quite put words to the emotion and the feelings. And what I was experiencing was overwhelm, anxiety, stress, but I couldn't identify it that way at that age, right? So there was that unexplained feeling and discomfort. And that was sort of the one of the pivotal moments for me where, I experienced that. And then having gone through that, we actually went through a period of poverty, where, we were going to food banks, and I literally was at one point, my brother and I were sleeping on literally boxes and sleeping bags in one room. It was a very life-changing, transformative experience. And having gone through that, as a child, and experiencing that overwhelm and seeing a whole family go through that kind of change, it led me on a path to discovery, to learning more about stress, anxiety, being able to identify, and I use the words and the language to identify that to the feelings and emotions, and how to best deal with it, how to best cope, how to have your most resilient and happy life, essentially. So eventually that led me on a path to wellness. I also had some health issues along the way, which also pushed that along as well. So ultimately I got into yoga practice, fitness instruction, anything wellness, nutrition. I did all the certifications, all the education, went to school for it, taught children of all ages. So it wasn't just kids. I was teaching senior citizens and everyone in between, and help them have their most resilient and happy life as a result. And I dealt with all kinds of health conditions. People with chronic pain came to me. I did rehabilitation work for a while. So I had a plethora of experience, and my mission was all along not to just integrate the basic needs of fitness instruction, but to integrate the wellness piece in terms of mind, body, spirit, in community, holistically, so that if somebody came to me, I could provide a whole perspective of their wellness. Because you understand this so well with what you do. Giving one piece of the puzzle is not going to help improve long term. It might help you temporarily, but you need to have everything holistically in play for long-term enduring change. So that was my mission, and it always has been. And I got to a point where I felt like I wasn't giving enough. So I became an educator. on my journey. And I was actually, because I have a science background, so physics, biology, environmental science, those are the things that I actually trained in as well. And at one point I was working in an outdoor ed center. I was able to integrate wellness in an outdoor ed center. So where some people were just educators, I was the educator who was teaching health and wellness. so,
Wow.
so people were looking at me and going, wow, she's really giving me a lot more than just, this particular course. And I love that. I love that ability to be able to, again, look at the whole as opposed to just, one piece of the puzzle. So that eventually led me, and I was working in private institutions and integrating with other businesses. So there's a lot of private businesses that interacted with that. And then eventually I ended up working for the public board. And that's where I was the last few years, working with younger kids and bringing the concept of mindfulness and wellness into the classroom.
Yeah.
And it's been an exciting journey. I literally have developed a really unique program, in fact, to help integrate mindfulness and wellness into the class as children learn throughout the day. So they don't even realize they're being integrated into these tools or modalities. It becomes habitual, and so they can take it into their lives, bring it home to their families, and actually, many children have actually used these tools, taught their families, and come back to me and told me, "Hey, guess what? I'm using this at home. My mother is using it now." So it's really exciting.
It is, isn't it? It's changing the world really from our little people. They need to have those tools. They need to grow and it doesn't become a chore or something that you have to do. It's a lifestyle, isn't it? They know those tools and they really they're understanding it. They're not questioning it. They're just, that's it. That's how it is. So what kind of tools are you teaching? So is it more the mindfulness kind of tools that you're teaching?
So a big part. So again, it's kind of like what you would do when you're assessing an environment. So when children come to me in the classroom, in particular, if we're going to focus on that right now, on average, you have anywhere from 26 to 36 children all at once. So it's a dynamic of a huge population of little bodies, and sometimes taller ones than smaller ones. It's a mixture of both. And the children that I've been teaching in the last few years were like grade 5, grade 4, so 8 to about 10, 11-year-olds, right? And they can be quite tall by that age too. So so imagine that many children in one space. They come to you every day. And with the particular role that I was playing, I was also serving as a support teacher, which means that I would see close to 200 children every day. So,
Wow.
so that gives you perspective. 200 little bodies coming to you from, dealing with their own emotional state every day, right? And that can fluctuate. And you need to have an environment that supports these children during the time that they're with you. And in that particular case, it's usually about 40 to 60 minutes, depending on the situation, on average. So when they would come to me, yes, that time I would want it to be purposely mindful, so that they would have these tools that they could integrate right away, and it would just be really, really packed full of lots of golden nuggets, so that they would be able to integrate it into their lesson plan of whatever subject matter they were learning that in that particular moment. So tools that I would use would be the powerful tool of music. Music is so powerful when it comes to helping us go into flow, right? I think we can all attest to music. Like there's always that song or that particular musical something, right? Je ne sais quoi, that will help us just kind of put us in a certain mood, right? There's certain melancholy music will kind of make you feel melancholy. Upbeat music makes you feel joyful, right? It really taps into your emotional state and can literally turn an emotional state into a different one, just like that.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. So
that's one of them. Music is a great way. And in fact, studies have shown classical music helps children, or actually anybody, focus and learn better. It actually enhances learning. So I've found that I've used a lot of classical music depending on what they're trying to learn. It helps enhance their learning ability, so that it, and it helps them focus, which is part of mindfulness practice. Mindfulness practice helps us become better in the moment and better focus, which ultimately helps us overall. Because if we can focus, let's face it, in this day and age, we have a problem with focus, right? Especially with social media and so on. It teaches us not to be focused. So mindfulness is so key to bring us back to what we're supposed to be able to do naturally. So focus is number one. So the music can really help improve that. It helps keep us in the moment. Other things that help are, when we talk about our five senses, and that's where that expression comes from. Let's go. Get back to your senses. That expression people use. That's where it comes from.
The five senses, right? I'm all about the five senses all the time. I keep going on and on and on about this. Well, it's true. It just connects. It's a direct drivers to your emotional state, isn't it?
It is.
Definitely.
So the five senses. So if we can just remember that expression, that old adage, that expression we've had, for hundreds of years. I'm sure, I don't know who came up with it, but we intuitively knew. Humanity's always known this, right? It goes back to prehistoric times. Our senses are what keep us grounded, are what keep us alive, essentially, right? And so if we can just, if there's one takeaway out of the conversation we have today, if we can just remember those five senses, right? And to get back to that can make a huge difference in terms of our discussion today. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you're connecting that, because I'm with the feng shui and the environment. I always say, to connect really with people on an emotional level, look what's around you, what do you feel, what can you hear, what can you smell, and this is really kind of, that really comes back to it, because I think also there's sometimes an interpretation that mindfulness is about closing your eyes and trying to get into a meditation state, and it's not necessarily this, isn't it? Mindfulness is that moment and that being present, and that connection, that emotional connection, isn't it?
I love the way you say that. It's exactly that. It's the essence of being in the moment and enjoying the sweetness of that moment in its fullest capacity. And it's truly beautiful and magical. So going back to our five senses, and maybe how I've, examples of how I've integrated it, music was one. And again, tying into those five senses, how can a child of any age, really, we can incorporate this into our environment, a home, right? Parents can do this, mentors can do this. So it doesn't have to be in the classroom, but this is how I've done it in the classroom. But it can easily be applied in any environment. So think about how you can incorporate touch, right? By allowing children to have that kinesthetic feel. Fluffy things have a texture versus things that are rough and textured, for example. Those can really help bring people back to the moment. And it really helps children who are anxious or stressed. I think of children who are particularly anxious or stressed before an exam or a test. There's a lot of test anxiety in the school systems, no matter where you go. And these are ways for children to be able to go, even if they have a stress ball, something they can squeeze, right? That sensation of adding pressure, textual pressure, can really alleviate is what I'm saying, not elevate. They're very different. It alleviates stress, right? So those, again, so that's touch. Smell, we have to be careful in school systems because there is that sensitivity to smell. However, one of the ways we can still incorporate smell are, is actually using incorporating smell and visual components. So like fresh cut flowers, right? So now you're getting the beauty of these flowers and the natural energy, but you're also, if they happen to have a light aroma, then you can also appreciate that. And that aroma can go a long way, again, to helping come back to your senses and help you be very mindful. So those are some other strategies that that I've incorporated following the wellness aspects of the environment that we're in with children and in the school systems, for example. Just a few examples. I mean, it's a whole process. I'm just kind of going through them because I know we have lots to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous, and I think you've also taken it to another level, haven't you? Because you got your little projects as well, which goes alongside what you're doing. So this is tell us a little bit about the project.
Okay, well, there's a couple. So, are you referring to the Global Green Action Project in
Yeah.
particular? Yeah, it's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that. So, that one's actually in its infancy stage. It's been around for about 10 months now, and it's in phase 1. So, there's a lot more goodness to come with that as well. Right now, what we're doing is so the Global Green Action Project essentially is, yes, taking it to a whole new level, is adding mindfulness, the element of nature, and really exploring nature on a whole new level in terms of mindfulness in the classrooms and in the educational system. And what that looks like is a big picture, but if I were to narrow it down, is at this stage is to empower youth and children through mentorship, allowing them to see these amazing mentors in the world on how they are resilient and how they are being mindful and supporting our world, our global family, through environmental, animal, and humanitarian initiatives in the most amazing ways. And through that, it allows children to see how mindfulness plays into action. So often, as you were saying, it's not just sitting there and meditating. It's actually taking your mindfulness in your being and taking action and putting it out into the world in the most amazing ways to heal our planet, to heal all life on this planet. And the power of mindfulness and action is what that's all about. And it empowers children so that they have great hope for their future, so that they know they're empowered to be part of that change. It's very exciting.
It is, Jennifer, and when you talk to like this, for me, that just straight away what came in when you were talking like this was the yin and yang. That Taos, the Taos sign. You talk about the mindfulness, which is the yin energy, the emotional energy, the ability to dream and to visualize things and then to take action. That's the yang energy. Let's go and do this, and that's really putting the two together and bringing them together to create, that yin and yang energy. It's fabulous.
It's just so empowering. And when you see children taking action and integrating that, again,
Yeah.
practice in motion is another way of saying it, right? And it's so key, because when we start to practice it, it creates this beautiful energy of momentum. It ties into what you practice and what you're educating the world about, right? It's that energy in motion. And what it creates, this beautiful flow of energy that is just positive energy that just perpetuates in the most amazing ways throughout everything, throughout life. And it's a beautiful thing.
It's a, it's a ripple, isn't it? Like you said, you're teaching something, you're showing something to the children, and they're so into it that they're going to go and tell their parents, and the parents may look at it and start. It's that ripple effect all the time, isn't it? Of wanting to feel good in yourself, wanting to help others, wanting to be with others, and feeling good in your own life, feeling fulfilled in what you do, isn't it?
Yes, and it takes away from that whole busy, right? Because now you have a purposeful busy. It's focused busy, right? It's so now it's a very different way at looking at the world. You perceive the world differently, and it helps you develop the empathy, the compassion on a whole new, deeper, more meaningful level, which not only helps yourself, but ultimately helps the world. Everything that you do now becomes so much more meaningful to you, but to others as well, because you're able to make a greater impact. And
Yeah,
isn't that a beautiful thing when we can accelerate healing all
yeah. And actually, it becomes to a point if we are teaching our children this, that there isn't healing anymore to do because they don't go through the pain. Would that not be just beautiful? Would that not just be beautiful, just teaching our children not to be in pain? And I know there's obstacle all the time. It may just be a bit of a too much, too big a vision, but being able to give them the tools so young to actually overcome those and being able to manage those stresses, and that's the idea behind everything that you do, isn't it?
It's all about that social emotional learning component, right? It's being able
Yeah.
to use these tools out, not only just by yourself in a room meditating, but it's also in that action, in that wherever you go, in your work environment, in your your school interactions with your peers, with your mom and dad, with your siblings. It just becomes a better world. And I love this expression. I use it a lot. It's the Dalai Lama was quoted, and I want to get it right, but I use it a lot because it's one of my favorite. He says that if every 8-year-old child was taught the art of meditation, that within one generation that we could eliminate violence. Like
Wow.
that gives you an example of the power of not only meditation, but he's talking a lot more than that. He's referring to the mindfulness piece to that, right? So powerful stuff when you think about it that way. Like it's another
Wow.
example.
Very powerful stuff. Absolutely powerful stuff. And it is, I think that there is a lot more, people are a lot more open now. I think the pandemic, in a way, really kind of got people to stop and think and feel and look for alternative ways to actually feel better and connect and share and belong and all those kind of things that perhaps we were taking for granted before the pandemic, and that pandemic made us stop and reevaluate everything that we do. And yes, wouldn't that be amazing if we could have a better world just because we're teaching our children to do something very simple but so powerful. It would be amazing.
It's really interesting. I mean, there's ongoing science on various mindfulness strategies, if you will, and there's still some out there still kind of out on the fence in terms of the final results. But ultimately, there's so many benefits. I mean,
Right.
it shows that you're creating new neural pathways in the brain. It taps into the brain where it helps you have that emotional resilience. It helps you have deeper, more meaningful relationships with others, as we've already alluded to and discussed. I mean, focus. These in themselves are incredibly powerful when we think of the world we're living in today. And yes, with these unprecedented times that have occurred, it just brings it all back home on why we need to focus on these very, some people might say basic skills, but yet they have so much power. And the key too is also the repetition of these skills. We will get instant benefit if we practice something once. Absolutely, you'll get benefit. However, if you only do it once and you forget about it, you're not getting the full benefit. And that's something I wanted to also address, because it ties back to that whole concept of repetition, or another word we call discipline, which is really, really key, right? With anything, right? Practice makes perfect. And in terms of just getting better at what we do, just like if you want to learn a new language, you can learn one word, but that's where you're limited if that's all you decide to do. If you decide to learn more words, then you become more fluent and you gain a much richer context to being able to communicate with people. And then you get so many more benefits from being able to learn from others and so on, right? As another example. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, really, really nice. Beautiful, beautiful. And I think that's why, I thought this series, this one was really important to do, because I've been talking about, that physical environment and the feng shui and all that, how it affects us, and that outer energy, which is really key, important, but our inner energy, our inner feng shui needs to be looked at. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to put that mask on our face before we help others. And it's people like you who really are doing some amazing work. And so I'd like to thank you for that, Jennifer. If anybody would like to connect with you or buy your book, and how would they get in touch with you?
So I'm on all social media now. I've just updated. So I'm on Instagram. You can find me under my name, Jennifer Green. You can find me there. Facebook, same thing. We also have a de-stress community, which you're a part of as well, which is exciting because we're always sharing and learning from each other, which is fabulous. And then, of course, I think I've shared a link with you in terms of just accessing the book, but I can certainly send you updated stuff for the show notes if you require. But yes, even if you were to Google Amazon, you would, or Breathe. My book is called Breathe Like Gwendoline, the Magical Gentle Dragon. So even if you Google that, it pops up because it's quite visible on Amazon.
It's quite tight.
It's quite a unique.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. It was beautiful to share that moment with you and really learn about your passion and the things that you do and how you help the world to be a better world. And and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Oh, I'm just so elated. And also, yeah, I just want to add too that if people want to look at the Global Green Action Project channel, they'll also find a great video about your wonderful expertise as well. So I want to make sure that's out there too. So feel free to come visit us there as well, because that's a great resource for feng shui as well. Thank you so much for sharing with me this opportunity to share the gift of mindfulness with the world. Such a beautiful gift for us all to be able to incorporate into our lives to have our most resilient and happy life. With gratitude, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And bye-bye, everybody. Have a fabulous weekend. See you again soon. Next week, next Friday, same 3 p.m. British summertime, just in case you're on the other side of the world. Bye for now. Bye.